here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, I've been doing a lot of observing today. It's kind of sad, really. Kind of sad watching some of the original Trump supporters turn on the president, turn on a dime. Now they're trashing him. It's kind of sad to watch McCain and Graham, radical interventionists, like pom-pom boys and girls dancing around in excitement. Kind of sad to keep hearing Rand Paul. I would never take advice on foreign policy from Rand Paul. Economic policy, yes. Foreign policy, no way. He's the leader of the Code Pink Republicans. And yet, if you disagree with all of them, the neocons, the Code Pink Republicans, and some of the original Trump supporters, many of whom, among those who are attacking Trump now, really are the alt-right types, the isolationist types. They say they believe in America first, when some of them are truly of the hate America crowd. It's truly sad to see how things have broken up. It's also sad to see people say there's no legal basis. I've been reading this for any action. In fact, the arguments bounce all over the place. There's no legal basis. There's no American national interest. We're not the policemen of the world. But if we're going to be the policemen of the world, we have to be the policemen everywhere. We can't be prudential and discerning in where we might be the policemen. We need a declaration of war, even though we've had troops in Syria for how long now? I don't remember people demanding a declaration of war for that. You know, when you're dealing with nuclear weapons, and you're dealing with biological weapons, and you're dealing with chemical weapons, to me, everything changes. Because they are weapons of mass destruction. And in the case of chemical weapons and biological weapons, they're mobile. That is, they can be moved from country to country, from region to region, to continent to continent. They can be weaponized. And so it's a big deal. It's a big deal. But I have some questions I want to pose, and then I want to give you some information, most of which you probably haven't even heard today. For you liberals out there, as I said yesterday, as I said on my social sites, look how pathetic you look. Look how pathetic you look. Vladimir Putin and the Russians are furious with Donald Trump in the United States. And you have claimed all along that Donald Trump was a sucker for Putin. And you claimed all along that they were colluding with each other to advance his election. And you've been lying ever since. And you haven't said a damn thing about it today. And what amazes me is Trump supporters haven't said a damn thing about it today. They're so furious with what Donald Trump has done, and I'll get into the substance in a minute. They don't even come to his defense. The entire counterintelligence or whatever it's called investigation that's being done by the FBI is truly bogus. Even if they find this guy did this or this guy did that, Trump did nothing. All the efforts, the time to a bank, the time to a transaction, the time to this, the time to that. Who do you think Vladimir Putin would prefer to see as president today? Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? Donald Trump or Barack Obama? Well, you know the answer to that. And for all those who say that Donald Trump is a Muslim hater, when he saw those videos of those little babies and those little children and those innocent people dying of nerve gas, sarin, One of the most horrific ways to die. Little babies, 2 years old and so forth. He said enough is enough. Those were Muslim babies. Muslim babies. And he did more in that one missile attack last night than Barack Obama did. Period. We have multiple enemies in the Middle East now. That's the situation President Trump inherited. He didn't create it. We have multiple enemies. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Assad, Hezbollah, Iran, and now Russia. Russia, which now has a land base in the Middle East, in Syria, thanks to Obama. Now, this is the situation. But he not only inherited that, Donald Trump, he inherited a resolution that nobody's talking about. A Security Council resolution adopted on September 27, 2013. And all the legal beagles out there, what, did they become Helen Keller? No, I'm not holding up the United Nations. I despise the United Nations. But if you're going to say, with any level of integrity, whether or not there is a legal basis for this or that, you're going to cite the Geneva Accords and you're going to decide to at least cite the facts. What is it that Russia keeps objecting to at the UN? What is it that they keep objecting to? The enforcement of what? The enforcement of what? The enforcement of Security Council Resolution 2118. That's what. 7 times. Russia on the Security Council has objected, usually with the support of China. Now, what is this deal? This is a deal that was made between Obama and Putin. This was a deal made between Obama and Putin. And signed off on by the Security Council. And there's an enforcement mechanism in this. And even as late as yesterday, the Russians were blocking it. And Trump said, all right, that's enough. We'll go on our own. And now he's under attack. Oh, he broke the law. There's absolutely no legal basis whatsoever for what he's done. And besides, you need a declaration of war. So we need a declaration of war where Congress debates for 3 or 4 weeks over whether or not we shoot 59 missiles into the air base where Syria launched its gas attacks. Gee, this is going to go really well. So when North Korea gets ICBMs that can reach Los Angeles or Philadelphia or New York or Boston or Chicago or Detroit or Sacramento or San Francisco or any part of the continental United States, let alone Hawaii, when North Korea gets that, and the 30-year-old little mental patient keeps threatening us, what are we going to do? Debate in the United States Senate, the United States House for 3 or 4 weeks, whether they take it out? Oh, yes, you got to do it. You got to do it. How stupid is that? Or when the Iranians get their ICBMs perfected, and they will, and get their nuclear warheads perfected, and they are, we need to tell the whole world in a debate on that wonderful Senate floor and in that House floor, a debate on and on and on about whether we're going to declare war and hit them on missiles that take 30 minutes to hit our major cities. 30 minutes. That's why we have a War Powers Act. And frankly, those of us who are constitutionalists should stop jumping up and down looking for ways to obstruct efforts by a commander-in-chief to protect this nation. But we should be making the case that we need to amend the Constitution. We need to amend the Constitution, not necessarily to include the entirety of the War Powers Act, but to deal with modern circumstances. Not because it's living and breathing, but because we have enemies that are acquiring nuclear missiles that will be able to hit our cities. And as much as I like a good debate, I also like our survival. So let me be the first to propose that we need to have an amendment to the Constitution that updates the declaration of war provision in the Constitution. Not to eliminate it by any means, but to address the fact that we have enemies that don't wear red coats and march in horizontal lines with their rifles pointed to the sky, where they load their muskets one ball at a time. That we need to be able to respond more quickly to people who can blow us off the face of the earth in an hour's time or less. We can have a good debate, but we need to be able to protect ourselves. Just making the theoretical point, because the theoretical point's been thrown around all over the place. All over the place. Well, the full text of the Security Council Resolution 2118, adopted in 2013, of which Syria is a part, of which Russia is a part, of which the United States is a part, is too long to read to you. But I'll read part of it to you. The Security Council, recalling the statements of its president of August 3, 2011, March 21, 2012, April 5, 2012, and its resolutions 1540 in 2004, 2042 in 2012, and 2043 in 2012, reaffirming its strong commitment to the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic, reaffirming that the proliferation of chemical weapons, as well as their means of delivery, constitutes a threat to international peace and security, recalling that the Syrian Arab Republic on November 22, 1968, acceded to the protocol for the prohibition of the use of war of asphyxiation, poisonous or other gases, and bioterrorological methods of warfare, signed at Geneva on June 17, 1925, noting that on September 14, 2013, the Syrian Arab Republic deposited with the Secretary General its instrument of accession to the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development of Production, Stockpiling, and Use of Chemical Weapons and their Destruction, and declared that it shall comply with its stipulations and observe them faithfully and sincerely, applying the Convention provisionally pending its entry into force for the Syrian Arab Republic, welcoming the establishment by the Secretary General of the UN mission to investigate allegations of the use of chemical weapons in the Syrian Arab Republic. And it goes on. Acknowledging the report on September 16, 2013 by the mission, underscoring the need for the mission to fulfill its mandate, and emphasizing that future credible allegations of chemical weapons use in the Syrian Arab Republic should be investigated. And it goes on and on and on. And there's an enforcement mechanism by the Security Council. And one country, often joined by another country, Putin and Russia, often joined by Xi and China, block the enforcement mechanism. And when Barack Obama was president, that's where it ended. That's where it ended. With Donald Trump as president, he had enough. I've got a lot more to say. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
America first. Now, I believe in America first. I mean, if you're not a leftist, what kind of moron doesn't believe in America first? Do you think Donald Trump believes in America first? Do you think he fired 59 missiles into that airbase because he believes in America second? Now, as is unfortunate throughout our history, there are organizations, there are political movements that use phrases and titles that really are intended to mask who they are and what they are. For example, the original America First movement predated World War II. Charles Lindbergh was involved in it. And it was an isolationist movement. And it was a movement that was very effective in stalling our involvement before the Japanese attacked us at Pearl Harbor. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we really didn't have to wait for the Japanese to attack us at Pearl Harbor. We didn't really have to wait for Adolf Hitler to first declare war on us. We saw what was going on in Europe and Asia. Congress near the end passed Lend-Lease, which was used by FDR to get some ammunition and ships and so forth to the British. The problem is when you allow your enemy to build up and build up and build up, particularly now where relatively poor, backward, third world countries can still get access to chemical weapons, biological weapons, and as they are trying, it's abundantly clear, nuclear weapons, it gets exceedingly dangerous and at a very, very fast pace. That doesn't mean you go to war everywhere. You must be prudential. Remember that word, prudential. You must be prudential. But when we have a president of the United States who's not an appeaser, when we have a president of the United States who's not an isolationist, who says, look, I changed my mind. Under certain circumstances, that can happen. Doesn't mean that he wants to go everywhere, guns a-blazing. But he changed his mind. And so what am I going to do? Play audio day after day after day of what he said before? He changed his mind. He said he changed his mind. You either agree with him or you don't. But the man hasn't changed from last week to this week. Look, I have my disagreements with Donald Trump. I didn't support him in the Republican primaries. I did support him for president in the general election for many reasons. And I'll have my disagreements with Donald Trump. But he's getting a very, very, very bad bum rap right now. And I happen to think what he did was not only right, but I'm very proud of my president. We'll be right back. Let me ask you a question as well, in this sense. Do you sometimes do things as an individual that may not be in your direct personal interest, but you feel is morally compelled? I'm not saying do you walk around your neighborhood, say, you know what, I'm going to do things that are morally compelled. No. I'm saying, are there times when you do things that may not be in your direct personal interest, but you do it because it's right? Because everything you've been taught about good and evil, everything you've been taught about right and wrong, everything you've been taught as a Christian or Jew, as a Buddhist, as a Hindu, as a Muslim, everything you've been taught tells you that you need to do something that's morally right and compelled. You know, there are nights when I read about the Medal of Honor winners. I have a couple of books on the Medal of Honor winners. And I just start reading through these books, and these men are unbelievable, one after another after another. Doing things they don't have to do, but just absolutely extraordinary human beings. Because they think it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do. You know, one of the criticisms of Franklin Roosevelt is that during World War II, when there were trains from different parts of Europe heading into Auschwitz and Treblinka and the other death camps, that the tracks for those trains, the tunnels for those trains, the bridges for those trains were never hit. They weren't hit. Would you have ordered those tracks or bridges or tunnels hit if you'd been president? Just curious. There is this straw man argument that if the President of the United States, whomever the President is, decides to intervene in a matter that he concludes as Commander-in-Chief is so morally repugnant and reprehensible that moves humanity, that something should be done. The continual, relentless gassing of innocent human beings in violation not just of a UN Security Council resolution, the enforcement of which is blocked routinely by that country's puppet master, but because it's so morally reprehensible, it's becoming commonplace and could become commonplace in other parts of the world, that something needs to be done about it. Something far short of an all-out war, a full-scale war, but at least to send an effective, what you hope to be an effective military message against a genocidal maniac who's killed about 500,000 of his own people, 60 or 70,000 of which are children. I know there are genocidal maniacs all over the globe. That's why we here, you and I, talk repeatedly about what a magnificent country this is, and why we need to defend our principles and our constitutional system and so forth and so on. We know this best. We constitutional conservatives, we know it better than anybody. That's why we fight and argue so long, so much to protect what we have, these magnificent institutions. But I'm hearing things now that concern me in this country. Almost rote arguments. Rote arguments. Like liberals. I'm hearing conservatives, pseudo-conservatives, nationalists, populists, alt-right, whatever they are, sound like code pink liberals. Code pink liberals. And if you object to this growing isolationism and this growing protectionism, you're accused of being a neocon or a globalist, of all things, when you're none of these things. You're none of these things. I think it's quite unfortunate that John McCain and Lindsey Graham, among others, are the face and voice that are used repeatedly by the media, and they want to be used repeatedly by the media as the so-called hawk wing of the Republican Party. These two guys are knuckleheads. They're goofballs when it comes to politics. They are way too aggressive, indeed radical, in their interventionist plans. They're constant. Constant. Libya and this one and that one and that. And they're wrong a lot. Donald Trump's not one of them. He's not one of them. That's not his belief. Certainly not mine. Ted Cruz was on Fox News today. And Ted Cruz had Syria so right during the primary campaigns. And here's what he had to say. Cut one, hat tip, right scoop, go.
Syria is a humanitarian disaster. It is a total mess, and the honest answer is there's no good answer to Syria right now. And after 8 years of Obama broken red lines and weakness, we've seen Syria turned into a war zone that has resulted in hundreds of thousands of refugees, of chemical weapons. It is a bad situation. That being said, the authority to declare war under the Constitution is given to Congress. Now, the Commander-in-Chief acted last night, and I look forward to President Trump making the case to the American people, making the case to Congress about what further military action should be taken, if any. You know, there's some folks in Congress that want to see us in protracted military involvement in Syria. I think that would be a mistake. But it's the Commander-in-Chief's prerogative to defend this nation, and Congress has the authority to make decisions about declarations of war.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. And if we're going to go further, that's exactly what should happen, a debate. Certainly if we're going to send a significant number of troops, but we already have troops there. And again, as I started at the beginning of the program, all these people today saying we need a declaration, where have they been the last several months? There was a report a week or two ago that we're going to have 1,000 more troops there. Did you hear them talk about we need a declaration of war? We're sending our troops into a foreign country. Yes, to fight ISIS. But we're sending our troops, our military, into a foreign country. You didn't hear them say a word. As pure as they think they are, as consistent as they think they are, they're not. They're not. And we have another problem, quite frankly. We have people dressed up as conservatives, dressed up as populist nationalists, who are slobbering all over Vladimir Putin. They've been slobbering all over this guy for years. They think he's a great guy. They've even said, I wish we had a president like him. Absolutely buffoonish. They wish we had a communist dictator who empowers himself and enriches himself? Really? Who executes his political opponents? Who sends his economic opponents, who won't give them, turn over their industries to him into Siberia and so forth? There's an element in talk radio, there's an element on TV, there's an element in Congress. Now they pretend they don't, but go listen to what they said about Putin. Go back and listen to what they said. Dead wrong. Absolutely dead wrong. Cut 2, Mr. Producer, go.
Well, I'll tell you, I think Putin, and for that matter, bad actors across the globe, the only thing they respect is strength. With 8 years of Barack Obama as president, what we saw was a weak president whose word didn't mean anything, and our friends didn't trust us, and our enemies didn't fear us. I will say I'm encouraged in the opening months of the Trump administration about foreign policy and national security.
Let me ask you another question as I listen to this. I'm filled with topics that I want to discuss here. Declaration of war. So who declares war? Congress, right? Well, what is Congress waiting for? Why doesn't Rand Paul, rather than running to the media, complaining about what's going on, why doesn't Rand Paul start a debate in the United States Senate on whether or not we should declare war? Senator Paul, you have some familiarity with the Constitution. A declaration of war is the business of Congress. You're a United States Senator. What are you waiting for? I mean this, ladies and gentlemen. What, he has to wait for the president to tell him to have a debate? You don't need to have a debate with hosts on the Fox News channel or the slavish liberal media now, which finds you very, very, very important. Start the debate. But he doesn't. He doesn't start the debate. Well, who's going to start the debate in Congress over whether or not we should have a declaration of war? They debate every other damn thing. Go ahead. Start it. Debate it. Who's stopping you? Nobody's stopping you. Cut 3, Rand Paul on Fox Business today. Go.
My first concern is this is why we should have a deliberate discussion. This is why this should originate in Congress.
Stop. This is why we should have a deliberate discussion. This is why this should originate in Congress. Okay, do it. Go ahead.
Why our founding fathers said under the Constitution that war should be debated fully by Congress, initiated and declared by Congress, but the president really doesn't have the authority under the Constitution to initiate war. And so I think what we're doing now is illegal and unconstitutional, and the ramifications could be...
All right, stop there. If it's illegal and unconstitutional, ladies and gentlemen, then they need to impeach the president. If it's illegal and unconstitutional, if they believe the president is acting in an unconstitutional fashion, in a matter of military action. In other words, these guys are cowards. They're cowards. Start the debate. Start it. Declaration of war comes out of Congress. It originates in Congress. He just said it. He just said what the president did is illegal and unconstitutional. Well, the Constitution addresses that, doesn't it? So do it. Who's stopping you? Nobody's stopping you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Can you believe that tax deadlines are looming? Well, they are. That's pretty brutal, especially if you owe back taxes, you know. The IRS doesn't mess around, and they won't stop until they collect. Whether it's your paycheck, bank account, even a lien on your home, you need an expert on your side. And that's what Optima Tax Relief provides. Yep, you need to call the pros I trust at Optima Tax Relief. Optima fights to protect you from the aggressive collections officers. The IRS takes actions that feels like you'll never win. But a way out is possible if you have the right people fighting for you. Right now, there's a tax debt assistance program that's saving people who qualify thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. And no one knows more about this program than Optima. I trust Optima to resolve my listeners' tax problems. They're A-plus rated from the Better Business Bureau, and they've solved over $500 million in tax debt for their clients. Your call and your consultation are free and confidential. So call 800-499-6300, 800-499-6300. That's 800-499-6300. Spirit on, Newburgh, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Yes, the serious stuff, the constant thing I've been hearing all day from the Assad supporters is that by doing this action, he's helping, Trump is helping ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's a fallacy because these weapons have never been used on ISIS. They've been constantly used on the rebels who have done most of the fighting, who have done most of the fighting against ISIS. You know, Assad barely touches them. The Russians, I don't think, have ever touched ISIS. And frankly, so by taking action against this and stopping the chemical weapons attacks, they're either not affecting ISIS at all or doing damage to them by not killing the people who are...
Why do you think there's so many people who really want to make Russia great again?
Frankly...
I mean, people in this country who pretend to want to make America great again, they defend Putin, they attack our own military, they attack a commander-in-chief who they once supported. I mean, how do you explain this?
I can't. I'm completely baffled. I mean, I joined this party partly out of disgust at the left for defending all these dictators, like Fidel Castro, and for cheering against our troops in Iraq. You know, and by the way, Assad was funneling jihadists into Iraq to kill our soldiers. Our friend Assad, and our friend Putin wasn't doing anything to stop him, even though it's a puppet state of his. So, all right, I don't get it.
Thank you for your call. Lou, Milford, Connecticut, Sirius Satellite. How are you, sir?
Good, my radio hero. I've had the occasion to parent 7 dogs in my lifetime. And when you have a puppy and there's a problem, you need to have the reinforcement, you know, when the bad act occurs. You don't wait a week. I think Trump did the right thing for the right reason. I think people are making too much out of it, trying to tie it to things that they shouldn't. I think the man was moved by the humanitarian nature of what took place.
And Lou, his ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, was quite effective.
Perfect.
She was in there duking it out on the Security Council to try to get them to enforce the resolution, and Russia kept objecting. And so we have an empty resolution in 2013, not that we have to go to the UN, not that we're globalists, but we have a rule of law. And here's the thing. Syria was supposed to get rid of all of its chemical weapons, all of them. And Russia was supposed to help make sure that happened. And there have been repeated attacks. This is just the latest one, Tuesday. There have been repeated attack with chemical weapons, this time sarin, nerve gas. So clearly they had no intention of doing it, and they haven't done it. So apparently there's supposed to be no consequences since Russia, since the great Vladimir Putin, who we're supposed to love, keeps blocking for them.
Yeah, the Democrats and the libs are dyslexic. They don't know what they want. What I have not heard at all is the fact that the presence of these chemical weapons is a threat to our military. Mm-hmm. And in the hands of mental cases, it's a huge threat to our national security.
Of course, and I talked about this at the top of the show. These things are mobile. That's why when you're dealing with chemical weapons and biological weapons and you're dealing with nuclear weapons, it changes everything. I've heard nitwit after nitwit say, what's the difference between gas and bullets? Well, nothing, obviously, if you're killed, but everything in terms of the capacity to kill a hell of a lot of people. Thank you for your call.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Doesn't look to me like Donald Trump is sending the 82nd Airborne into Syria, does it to you? Doesn't look to me like he's going to send hundreds of thousands of troops into Syria, does it to you? So why do people keep making arguments that are akin to that? Bizarre. Truly bizarre. And I think the decisiveness of this action does more than send a message to Assad. It clearly has upset Vladimir Putin, who we've been told now since at least July, but earlier really, was rooting for Donald Trump's presidency. And we even have our own FBI investigating the Trump campaign and its relationship to Putin and Russia, because we all know, the Democrats told us, that but for Putin and Russia, Hillary Clinton would be president. Because the people were really overwhelming in their support for Hillary, real juggernaut. And the only reason the Hillary juggernaut came to a halt was because of Russia assisting Donald Trump, right? No, wrong. This has been a lie from day one. The big lie, repeated over and over again. Committees of Congress investigating. The FBI investigating. Meanwhile, who's doing all the leaking? The Obama administration did all the leaking. Both when it was in power and some of its people out of power. Trump didn't create this situation. I am stunned that so many of his early supporters, ardent supporters, are conducting themselves like liberals and turning and running. Really exposing themselves, those who are in the media, as the Putin fanboys and fangirls they've always been. Pathetic. Now, it's amazing. When I started talking about this last night, the attacks had not occurred, had they, Mr. Producer? At least we didn't know about them. But I started talking about if the attacks occur, what would be the consequences, right? Went through all that. And among those, just to underscore it again, and you can listen to yesterday's show if you want, to underscore them again, Kim Jong Fat Boy over there in North Korea. I'll bet he has a little different mindset than he did when Barack Milhouse Benito Obama was president of the United States. This attack was launched around the time the president was having dinner, or shortly after, with the communist dictator who runs China, Xi, spelled X-I. Xi. Perfect timing. Now, what do you think his attitude is all of a sudden? There's a reason why our allies, every single one, is thrilled. And our enemies, every single one, is nervous or upset or angry. Under Obama, it was the reverse. Our allies were nervous or upset or angry, and our enemies were thrilled. And our enemies were thrilled. That changed. Now, $59 million. It's about $1 million per missile. $59 million. People have talked about the cost of this. It's amazing. Over $200 trillion in unfunded liabilities. We're talking about $1 trillion infrastructure program. $59 million. Here's the way I put this. $59 million. That's less than the amount of money the Obamas are getting for writing their phony books, or having somebody else write their phony books, which I believe was $60 million. And we already paid for the missiles. So that's just a stupid point. It's a stupid argument. Somebody had to take a step. This was actually quite a brilliant move. The cost effectiveness of it, the pinpoint accuracy of the hits, the timing, the purpose. Some people with their green eye shades, and I address their green eye shade points, but let's look a little beyond that. Let's look at the horizon. Take the green eye shades off. Now, I've addressed point by point, as best as I know them, of the critics. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. In one missile strike, he has changed the perception of the United States that had been so degraded by Barack Milhouse Benito Obama and his ilk. He's changed the perception of the United States in terms of its willpower, its political willpower at the top, the willpower of the president. In one strike. Korea, North Korea. What are you thinking if you're in Tehran right now and you're an Islamo-Nazi? What are you thinking right now? Uh-oh. We may build these nukes, but we better be careful. You know, we better not be taking on those naval vessels, those American naval vessels. You kidnap any more of our sailors, you're going to pay a different price, aren't you? No more money. No more Swiss francs or whatever the hell it was. No more payoffs. No more ransom in the middle of the night. No. Day's over. That's done. That's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen again. And so I think all of this was very important. It's not the end-all and be-all, but it's important. It's important. So all the lawyers out there, you know what? I think you had no legal basis and you violated this. Wrong. Well, you know, I don't think we should get involved in another war. We're not. Well, you know what? I mean, I voted for this guy. I thought it would be different. It is. It is. Trent, Dallas, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much for taking my call. It's an honor to speak with you.
Thank you.
I do want to harken back to 2014 when I remember watching an interview with John Kerry stating they got 100% of the chemical weapons out of Syria.
Whoa. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. Where's that Susan Rice thing, Mr. Producer? I'm looking for it real fast. Let's see. Let's hear cut 7. This is January 16, 2017. This year, Susan Rice, go.
On the so-called chemical weapons red line, indeed, we had put in place the assets necessary to use force to try to strike at those chemical facilities and command and control entities that we thought were relevant to our chemical weapons concern.
So why didn't it happen?
Because in the meantime, we were able to find a solution that actually removed the chemical weapons that were known from Syria in a way that the use of force would never have accomplished.
Such a liar. Such a complete... And by January 16, 2017, they knew they had failed. Go ahead, Trent.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is just constantly be told over and over and over again, we're doing everything we can. We're making movements. We're making these plays to stop all these different psychopaths that are running around the nation, around different countries all over the world. And I totally agree with you. $59 million, I'll pay 100 times that for the kind of credit and cred around the world and the kind of impact it made with all these countries around the world having to second guess all their devious little plans that they had set in place. They have to now rethink every single move they're going to make because they know now this president will react, will actually do something.
Exactly. Now let me ask you another question. Why am I the only one in major media out here stating I started yesterday on my social sites, again tonight, pointing out, does this not give the lie to the claim that Donald Trump is bought and paid for by the Russians?
I think because you're the only person that really doesn't care about what the mainstream media or what these socialites around the country are going to say about you. I think you're willing to shoot it straight, say exactly what you find in the facts, and tell us like it is. I also want to thank you. I started listening to you early this year during the primaries and everything, and I feel like you've educated me so much in the way our government is run, the way it should be run. I'm passing that on to my son. So just thank you for everything, and I want to hang up and listen to the rest of your show. Thank you much.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. I'm very curious about this. Trump takes on Syria and Russia. And he's been taking on Russia at the UN with Haley. Haley's been creaming Russia. The liberals don't talk about this. The media, the statist Praetorian Guard media, won't talk about this. I keep bringing it up. I don't know who else in talk radio is. You would think the backbenchers by now would write down what I say and repeat it. This is an amazing thing. The entire ruse has been exposed. That Trump was never a Putin puppet. That Trump was prepared to do whatever he thought he needed to do to protect America and American interests, regardless of Putin. And the Putin slobberers in this country, including in radio and TV, that's one of the reasons they're mad at Trump today. They like Putin. They do. The Code Pink Republicans like Putin. I think. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All weekend long, we're going to be served John McCain and Rand Paul, two knuckleheads. Like they represent most of the clear thinking and knowledge when it comes to foreign policy. That's what we're going to get. John McCain and Rand Paul. Rand Paul and John McCain. Which is why tomorrow night I'll be watching the UFC fights, Mr. Producer. And on Sunday, I think, we're going to the circus, if you can believe it. One of the last shows. Nikki Haley at the UN today. Cut 8, go.
Let's think about the possible reasons for Russia's failure. It could be that Russia is knowingly allowing chemical weapons to remain in Syria. It could be that Russia has been incompetent in its efforts to remove the chemical weapons. Or it could be that the Assad regime is playing the Russians for fools, telling them that there are no chemical weapons, all the while stockpiling them on their bases. The world is waiting for the Russian government to act responsibly in Syria. The world is waiting for Russia to reconsider its misplaced alliance with Bashar Assad. The United States will no longer wait for Assad to use chemical weapons without any consequences. Those days are over.
Wow, this administration sure is in the tank for Russia, isn't it, Mr. Producer? Nobody told Nikki Haley. More Nikki Haley. Cut 10. Go.
Now, while the Syrian regime is responsible for the chemical weapons attack, it is not the only guilty party. The Iranian government bears a heavy responsibility. It has propped up and shielded Syria's brutal dictator for years. Iran continues to play a role in the bloodshed in Syria. The Russian government also bears considerable responsibility. Every time Assad has crossed the line of human decency, Russia has stood beside him. We had hoped the Security Council would move forward, but Russia made it known, as it has done 7 times before, that it would use its veto once again, covering up for the Assad regime. Further delay by compromising with Russia for a watered-down resolution would have only strengthened Assad. Strengthening Assad will only lead to more murders. We were not going to allow that. But it's even more than that. Russia is supposed to be a guarantor of the removal of chemical weapons from Syria. Think about that. Russia is supposed to have removed all the chemical weapons from Syria. But obviously, that has not happened.
No, you don't understand. Russia's helping us fighting ISIS. Oh, yes, bombing raid after bombing raid. Strafing after strafing. Oh, they're not? No bombing raids, no strafing? You know what they've been bombing and strafing? Rebels who we funded under the Obama administration. That's who they've been blowing out. Can anybody give me one example, just one, when Russia was taking out ISIS? Go ahead and Google it. Just give me one example. There aren't any examples. Dawn, Lubbock, Texas, Sirius Satellite, go.
Hi, Mark, how are you? Can you hear me?
Oh, not well.
Okay, well, let me know if you can. I have a quick question.
Yes.
Where do these WMDs come from? We know that from years past, when we went into Iraq, there was not any WMDs found. There was speculation it went into Syria. Are these the WMDs that were not found?
Well, I have no idea. Maybe some of it did, but they've manufactured them. Syria is still manufacturing it. Thank you for your call. The connection's too poor. Now, keep something in mind, as you heard Nikki Haley here. Under this UN deal, this Security Council deal in September 2013, Russia is supposed to ensure that Syria coughs up all of its chemicals, all of its chemical warfare products and so forth, and they're destroyed. You see, Nikki Haley is exactly right. Russia has made sure that Syria does not destroy all of its chemical weapons. Russia has helped protect Syria with batteries of advanced land-to-air missiles to protect it from attacks from us, but particularly Israel. Russia's doing the same thing for Iran. Oh, Mark, you don't understand. They're helping us fight ISIS. Hezbollah, which is essentially an arm of Iran, has now been armed to the teeth with advanced long-range missiles by Iran to attack Israel. The Arab Gulf states, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and several others. They're thrilled about what took place last night. Thrilled. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we should thank our Commander-in-Chief, which is exactly what I'm doing. We'll be right back. All right, lots doing here, lots going on. Just a couple of years ago, if you wanted to protect your family, you had to spend a lot of money on a lot of complicated products. You'd be forced into a long-term contract, securing your home with a tangled mess of wires, buttons, and levers. It was very complicated and expensive. Thanks to Simply Safe, protecting your family is now, well, simple. They're blowing the roof off the home security industry. Simply Safe takes all the elements of good home security and streamlines them into one amazing system. 24/7 professional monitoring, powerful sensors, and high-definition security camera. Cutting-edge stuff. And Simply Safe camera, wow, it is brilliant. In the event of a break-in, it automatically starts recording. You'll get cold, hard evidence for the police sent right to your smartphone. Plus, Simply Safe lets you live stream HD footage anytime you want to. And there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Go to simplysafemark.com right now. That's simplysafemark.com and get my special 10% discount and protect your family the smart way. That's simplysafemark.com for 10% off your home security system. Simplysafemark.com. Now look, a couple things. When you travel, if you're a husband or a wife and you travel a lot, or if you go on vacation, not even a lot, if you go away for a day trip, you go away over the weekend or something, you need to protect your home. Even more, when you and your kids are sleeping and it's 3 in the morning, you may not be able to hear what's going on, somebody trying to break in through a window or through the door, whatever they're doing. Simply Safe is the way to go. No wires, no way to detach it, none of that. So please check it out, simplysafemark.com, and you get 10% off right now if you act right now, simplysafemark.com. The United States, CNN reports, is investigating whether Russia was involved in the chemical attack in Syria that prompted President Trump to launch the first direct military assault against the Assad machine. The Pentagon is looking for any evidence that the Russia government knew about or was complicit in the attack that killed at least 80 people and injured dozens more, senior U.S. defense officials said. And so, ladies and gentlemen, how could they not be complicit, even by omission? Russia was put in charge and agreed with the United States and agreed in the Security Council to be responsible for ensuring that Syria would give up all of its chemical weapons and that they would be destroyed. Now, let me ask you a question. We kind of touched on this last night, too. This is the deal that Obama and Kerry arranged. Two naive appeasers, two leftists, two hacks. What do you think about the deal with Iran right now? What do you think about the deal with Iran right now? Now, that deal never went through the Senate as part of the treaty provision of the Constitution. It was supposed to be a treaty, but it couldn't pass, could it? No, it couldn't. And I'm sure Rand Paul will go to the floor of the Senate next time they're back and say that that deal is null and void because it didn't go through the treaty provisions. But do you have any faith in that deal? Russia and Syria obviously didn't live up to the deal of 2013, did they? Do you think Iran and Russia are going to live up to the deal when it comes to ICBMs and nuclear missiles? No, they're not going to live up to that deal, are they? So what now? What do we do? Barack Obama caused enormous problems, ladies and gentlemen, enormous problems. And they're very difficult to deal with, but they have to be dealt with. These are matters of life and death. They're matters of survival, as far as I'm concerned. Let us go to Bill, Long Island, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, Mark. Pleasure. Thanks for your voice of conservatism.
You're welcome.
Hey, I love your comment when you said the Allies were nervous under Obama, and now the Allies are nervous. The enemies are nervous under Trump. Great. That was a great comment.
Thank you. It's true.
Definitely. Susan Rice, I just wanted to say she's a well-spoken, well-educated, lying mouthpiece, and it's very sad.
Let me ask you a question, by the way. And I touched on this earlier today, and I touched on it yesterday, but it needs to be said again. All this stuff out there by these federal judges and other people about Trump hating Muslims, Trump hating Muslims, they really took his words and twisted them. The fact is, he took these actions to save Muslims from Muslims, didn't he?
Exactly. And I mean, it's not a Muslim ban. It's a terrorism ban. Nobody understands that.
Yep. Really, it's incredible. It's incredible how this stuff is fed to us, the propaganda in the media, how the left, the Democrat Party, the media are really one and the same, aren't they?
It's unbelievable. I just want to make a comment. Somebody said, I think it was a Republican, said a comment to Curtis Lee earlier about Assad. He said, Assad, we should have spoken and talked to Assad first before we launched the missiles. I'm like, you can't talk to a person like that. You can't even talk to them. They massacre their own people? That's ridiculous.
How dumb is that?
That's ridiculous.
And not only that, they keep violating, they keep lying about it. Even the Russians today are there. Well, can you prove it? Can you prove it? You know, I heard General Keane on, I believe it was WMAL morning show when I was in the car, and I believe that's right. And he was saying, he was making point after point after point how we know that the chemicals were delivered by aircraft, by hard-wing aircraft, that they were able to track them through radar and satellites. And I mean, and let me, how many people have sarin gas?
Yeah, exactly. And he's done it before. I mean, you can't talk to people like that. They don't understand. All I understand is force and do things like that to massacre their own people. It's just, it's animalistic is what it is.
All right, my friend. Right on. I agree. All right. Let's take another call here. Let us go to Keith, Wichita, Kansas, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. Wait a minute. What? Oh, wait, it's Keith and Grace?
Oh, my gosh, I'm so nervous.
Uh-oh, what do we have here? Is this a couple?
No.
Oh, father and daughter. I'm sorry. Grace is 11 years old, they're telling me. Hi, Grace. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Aren't you excited? It's Friday night. Means
yes,
you have the whole weekend.
I have a parody.
You have a parody. Go ahead.
Okay. Last Friday night, I talked to Mark Levin, and he was pretty awesome. And Katy Perry, you suck. And there it is.
Okay. And Keith, where's yours?
Oh, shoot, I can't sing. You don't want that.
No, that's true. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Anything else?
Yeah, my brother was on here.
Yeah.
On January 9th, his name's Elijah.
Yeah.
And he likes you.
All right. Well, thank you. So we appreciate it. You take care of yourselves in Wichita, Kansas. Oh, that's very cute. Debbie, Cliffside Park, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go.
Yes, hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. You know, I was thinking, there's all this ruckus about Putin and Trump, but it was Obama. When he first came into office, I remember, Bush had a agreement with Poland and the Czech Republic for a missile defense shield,
yep.
And Obama promptly stopped that because Putin didn't want it. Remember?
I remember that. I do remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and now I heard somebody last night say that he's offering maybe Syria a missile defense shield.
You know, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
He doesn't care what we think, right? But we're supposed to tremble. Do you know our economy is like 4 or 5 times bigger than Russia's? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, so I've heard that many times.
Yeah, so don't you think we ought to build up our military a little bit bigger?
Yeah, I would think so, since, he's building his military and they're diminishing ours, or they were.
And Reagan used to say, you know, the bigger the military, the less likely you're going to have to use it.
Sure, absolutely, because they respect strength. They don't, you know, respect.
But we have to build it up from where to where it used to be before Obama was president.
Oh, I know that. I know.
I mean, so we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, my friend. I appreciate your call. Shall we see who else is out there? I think we shall. Let's see here. Our man Eddie. Eddie, Morris County, New Jersey. On the Levin app. Go.
My main man.
Wait a minute. Whoa. What are you doing in New Jersey?
I'm not in New Jersey. I'm in Southern Cal.
Oh, they wrote down you're in Morris County, New Jersey. All right, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
You can't be in two places.
Huh?
Can't be in two places at the same time. That I knew.
I've been saying that. Well, you could be. We could. We are twins. We could do this now. Come on now. Think about it.
That's true.
My main man, my friend, and my twin, the great educator. I said the great educator. That's right. Mark Levin. What a joy it is for me, Mark. You know it's a joy for me to talk with you. Mark,
well,
real quick, I have something I'm going to hopefully put a smile on your face, but real quick, let me say this about what you've been talking about. You're right. It is hard to be stabbed from within by these cold pink liberals and rhinos or whatever. And the president, and I like this about him, showed no tolerance for the tyranny. And you're right, Mark. Those were Muslim babies that were being gassed, and yet the left would have you believe that he's a Muslim hater. Okay. Yelling and screaming hatred is the left's way. Everyone is talking about the president like he's the second coming of Hitler, when Milhouse may have not been the Antichrist, but it appeared to me he was setting the table for him. You keep up the good work, teacher. Let me say this to you real quick, Mark. Mark, I know everybody in Southern California. Open their doors to me. I'm always welcome wherever I go. But Mark, since going on this voyage to become a true Levinian, taking classes in Levinology, reading the books and listening to this radio show, there was once upon a time I'd be in these liberals' homes and they would badmouth conservatism, and I would just say, pass the crag leg, stupid, and shut up. But since getting in touch with you, Mark, I want to let you know this. I hope this put a smile on your face. I have been put out of some of the finest liberal homes in Southern California. I'm talking about Malibu, Palisades, 2 beachfront homes, Long Beach, and Mark, and I blame it all on you, and I thank God for you.
Eddie, you're the best, baby. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. It's my man, Eddie. Great guy. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
By the way, giving up the defense shield in Poland and the Czech Republic to appease Putin, you know whose idea that originally was? Chuck Schumer's. Chuck Schumer's. And Obama liked it because it was another appeasement idea. So he took the idea from Schumer and implemented it. And, of course, Putin pocketed it and moved on. Because that's what despots do. You know, maybe the salesperson was telling the truth. Maybe lots of people do love their timeshares and don't mind the higher fees, lack of availability, or add pressure to always buy more timeshare while on vacation. But if your timeshare doesn't fit with your life, do what thousands have already done. Call my friends at ResortRelease.com to cancel your timeshare today. Resort Release's #1 goal is to help you get rid of that timeshare once and for all. They're the nation's largest and most trusted timeshare exit company, A+ rated and accredited with the Better Business Bureau. ResortRelease.com guarantees to get that timeshare off your hands and out of your life, or you don't pay. It's legal, it's permanent, and the moment that timeshare is gone, you can start planning the getaway you really want on your own terms. Don't let your timeshare fees increase. Call Resort Release, 888-455-MARK. It's that simple, 888-455-MARK. Or visit us at ResortRelease.com, ResortRelease.com. Toll-free number again, 888-455-MARK. Call right now. They're there, 888-455-MARK. Let me tell you, if Resort Release didn't exist, they'd have to invent it. And these guys are pros. They're really, really good. I spent some time with them. We had an excellent conversation. I vetted them. If you're stuck with one of these timeshares and you want to get out, this is the only place to go. That's Resort Release, 888-455-MARK. And they'll help you out, and they're pros, and they're good at what they do. All right, let's continue. By the way, very soon we will have a new justice on the Supreme Court. Bill Gorsuch was confirmed by the United States Senate. He just needs to be sworn in now. And I suspect the president will do so, if not on Monday, earlier. And I hope he turns out to be a tremendous justice, given all that's been done in order to get him on the court. By all recommendations, I certainly don't know him. We're told he's A+. I really hope so, because we constitutional conservatives have been disappointed time and time and time again. We certainly have. We have the great Clarence Thomas. He's still in the court. The great Sam Alito. He's still in the court. And that's it. No, I don't count John Roberts. Not what he did in Obamacare. That's one of the greatest betrayals of originalism, as far as I'm concerned, in modern jurisprudential history. And, of course, Anthony Kennedy is a leftist. Every now and then he'll throw a vote this way, but he's basically a leftist. He's come full circle. He's evolved, you see. He's progressed into an activist. And so we lost Scalia, one of the greatest justices in American history. And we have Gorsuch now. And then hopefully we'll have another 2 or 3 to appoint on the Supreme Court. And now, based on what the Democrats did, as damaging it is to the institution of the Senate, one of the final nails in the coffin of the Senate, the Republicans in the United States Senate, assuming they retain the majority in the next election cycle, and they should expand it quite significantly, will be able to put more constitutional conservatives on the court. I'll be honest with you, I'd like to see Mike Lee on the court. Problem is, you'll have a handful of Republicans like Lisa Murkowski and Bob Corker and Susan Collins and so forth, who I believe would be opposed to it. But I think he'd be absolutely outstanding. That's just me. The one sad thing about that is we'd lose him in the Senate, but still, I think he'd be an unbelievable justice. And Ted Cruz, too. But I don't think Ted Cruz is interested in that sort of thing. I really don't. I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it. Oscar, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Sirius Satellite. How are you, Oscar?
I am honored and privileged to speak to a great American like you, Mark.
Well, thank you. You, too.
How about Mark Levin for Supreme Court Justice?
Well, that'll be a simple one. No, that's all right. I'm happy where I am. Besides, I don't want to sit in the same room day in and day out and day in and day out with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Anyway, go ahead.
That will aid you, that's for sure.
Yes.
Sir, I find
Yes,
it
sir.
rather comical that everything they accuse Trump of doing, they have been caught red-handed doing themselves. You remember Obama's hot mic when he was meeting with the Prime Minister of Russia?
Oh, yes. By the way, where is that guy? Where is that guy?
Well, he came out of nowhere today to basically chastise our...
Oh, he did? Oscar, I'll be back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. I want to be very clear about something. This missile attack on this Syrian base. There's no reason for our enemies to respond with war threats, if they are. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen, and you and I have talked about this for 8 years, particularly the last 4 years of the prior administration. Our enemies are emboldened. Even the little puke, the little inbred who runs North Korea, he's emboldened because there was no pushback by Obama. The Islamo-Nazi throwbacks to the 7th century in Tehran, they're emboldened. They got $150 billion in essence, thanks to Obama, and an upfront payment of $1.7 billion in all kinds of cash and coinage and so forth in the middle of a night, delivered to them on a pallet. They took some of our sailors prisoner, kidnapped them off the high seas. We still don't know what happened there. They took shots at some of our ships in international waters, and we did nothing. Putin's had his way with his neighbors. The lawyers out there you want to talk about, we have a 1994 agreement that we signed with Russia, Yeltsin at the time, and the Ukraine, and us, among others, that Ukraine would surrender its nuclear weapons, which it did, in exchange for protection. And among those that would come to Ukraine's protection would be Russia, as well as the United States. Ukraine is under siege right now. Georgia was under siege not long ago. Crimea has been annexed by Russia. And the appeasers and the Putin sycophants in this country, some of whom are phony conservatives, keep making excuses for the guy. That's our fault. And what are you going to do, choose Obama or Putin? I choose neither. We talked about Poland and the Czech Republic. They were supposed to get defense shields. Those were negotiated away, and in return, we got nothing from Putin. Zero. Putin's in Antarctica. Putin's in the Middle East. Putin is arming the Taliban against our soldiers. Putin's cutting deals with Red China in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. And this throwback is nothing more than a dictator, and he's pouring his nation's resources into building up his military, not just conventional, but nuclear. He has modernized their nuclear inventory when we have not. When we have not. I've said many times, Barack Obama has done more damage to the United States military than Putin, or Xi, or the Islamo-Nazis, or the North Koreans, together could have possibly done. Red China threatens our ally Japan. North Korea threatens our ally South Korea. Putin threatens our allies as well. And so we hit this Syrian base with 59 missiles, and oh, look at this, the drums of war. Really? What, is everybody deaf? Again, it goes back to what Reagan said. Peace through strength. Your enemies do not respect appeasement. They do not respect talk. They respect muscle. And the Code Pink Republicans, as well as the real Code Pink types in the Democrat Party, are endangering this country. They're endangering our families and our communities. Appeasement begets war. It begets war. USA one step away from clash with Russia. I'm reading from the Drudge Report headlines. Strike raises tensions with Iran. Really? Well, we can't have that now, can we, ladies and gentlemen? No. Tensions with Iran. Tension with Iran threatens to blow us off the face of the earth. That Iran? Is that what we're talking about? The Iran that has killed American soldiers? That Iran? The number one nation spreading terrorism? Tensions rise with Iran? Oh, I thought they were pretty high to begin with. USA one step away from clash with Russia. Why, are we buzzing their ships? Are we buzzing their bombers? Are we sailing into their waters? All the things that Russia's doing? One step away? Really? And of course, Xi, China's dictator, they're building up their military too. And their economy is about a half to a third the size of ours. So why aren't we building up our military? Why? Because Rand Paul doesn't believe we should? Why do I care what Rand Paul thinks when it comes to foreign policy? He was an eye doctor. I've got nothing wrong with eye doctors. In fact, I go to an eye doctor from time to time. I wear glasses. No problem. No problem at all. But is this a particular expertise he has? No. No, it's not. Sorry, it's just not. And all of a sudden he speaks for millions and millions of people? Really? Since when? So all day Sunday, if you're foolish enough to sit in front of the television, all day Sunday, there's going to be ping pong between John McCain and Rand Paul. Like that's the choice. Endless interventionism with endless troops, in McCain's case, or endless appeasement, quite frankly, in Rand Paul's case. Now, I want to repeat. I want to get this cut with Rand Paul. I'm not picking on Rand Paul, but he's out there endlessly, so I want to deal with this. Rand Paul on Fox Business today. Cut 3, Mr. Producer. Go.
You know, my first concern is this is why we should have a deliberate discussion. This is why this should originate in Congress. This is why our founding fathers said under the Constitution that war should be debated fully by Congress, initiated and declared by Congress. But the president really
All right, let's stop. And I listen to this. This is why this should originate in Congress. This is why a deliberate discussion. This is why, let's see, the founding fathers said the war should be debated fully by Congress. And I'm thinking to myself, well, do you need an invitation to do this? In other words, ladies and gentlemen, if war is to be originated in Congress after a debate in Congress, and if Rand Paul thinks that needs to take place, and if Rand Paul thinks that should have already taken place, then why doesn't Rand Paul do it? A debate in Congress is not going on the Fox Business Channel, or on CNN, or on MSNBC, or on CBS and NBC and ABC, or Russian TV, or any other TV. Rand, go ahead and do it. Originate a debate in Congress. Right? It originates in Congress. That's what he said. So do it. What, do you need permission from the president? No, just do it. But he doesn't do it. Go ahead.
The authority under the Constitution to initiate war. And so I think what we're doing now is illegal and unconstitutional.
Now, as I said earlier, if it's illegal and unconstitutional, if a president is doing something that is illegal and unconstitutional, and it involves war, well, then I assume the Republicans in the House of Representatives are going to start writing up articles of impeachment at the urging of Rand Paul. See, I'm the true constitutionalist. So start the debate. It originates in the Senate or in the House. Then do it. And if you believe the president has conducted himself in violation of the Constitution, then you know what to do, Rand. Talk to your friends in the House. Put your money where your mouth is. On the other hand, we're going to hear John McCain go on and on about this just isn't enough. I'm glad the president did what he did. It's just not enough. I say we need troops. Yeah, we need ground troops. We need them in Libya. We need them in Yemen. We need them in Syria. Yes, yes. More troops in Iraq. That's what I think. Troops. Let's send them in there. Yes, let's do that. Right, Lindsay? Yes, that's right, John. That's right. Yes, so that's what we need to do. Like, these are the choices. These are the choices. They're not the choices. That's not reality. And neither will work, and neither will keep us safe. Neither. Let us go to... Oh, I want to go back to Oscar in Fort Lauderdale because I had to cut him short last hour and I didn't want to be rude. Go ahead, Oscar.
It's okay, Mark. I just wanted to say thank you for all you do. And I think Rand Paul should have a tea party with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, McCain, and whoever else.
But here's the thing, Oscar. He raises interesting, if not legitimate points. But why doesn't he follow through on them?
Absolutely.
If you believe, and I do, that war originates, if you believe this is an act of war that requires a declaration of war, then you should go to the Senate floor and he should begin that process, have a vote up or down, have the debate. Go ahead and do it. And if he believes the president has violated the Constitution, that is a big charge. If he believes this president has already violated the Constitution, he knows the consequences of that. So go ahead and make the claim.
I certainly think he had grounds against the previous president for 8 years, violating the Constitution.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. All right, Oscar, be well. Take care of yourself. Beautiful Florida. I love Florida. I really do. It's a beautiful state. So much to see. The food there is unbelievable. I'm not even a big seafood guy, but the seafood there is unbelievable. John, Scranton, Pennsylvania, the great WTRW. Go.
Mark, first, I want to say I've only been listening to you for a year, and you have taught me more in a year than all my years in high school, pharmacy school, and medical school combined.
Wow, that's quite a background you have. Thank you, sir. That's very, very kind of you.
Second of all, I want to say, why was it during 8 years, during Barack, Milhouse, Benito Obama's reign, executive order after executive order, why no one talked about the Constitution then, but when Donald Trump takes action against a murderer, it's all of a sudden, the Constitution, the Constitution. Do they know they're hypocrites, or do they just not know?
I don't know. It's quite weird, isn't it? You want to really hear a big hypocrite? Let's see here. Don't hang up yet. I want you to listen to Chris Murphy. This guy's a left-wing kook out of Connecticut. Listen to this guy. Cut 4, go.
There's good reasons why it's hard to pass an authorization to use the military in the Middle East, because it normally goes very wrong for the United States, and our constituents are very reluctant to grant the executive that power. So I think it's clear that the strike last night is illegal, that it is not permissible under the Constitution's war-making powers granted to Congress, and that we should be here this weekend debating an authorization for the use of military force, because this might not be the end of the Trump administration's military policy in the region.
Now keep something else in mind, John. Barack Obama is a serial violator of the Constitution. Look at what they've done on immigration. Has this jerk gone to the microphone and gone on and on about sanctuary cities and how that is an effort to nullify federal law and the federal Constitution by blue states and blue cities? Have you ever heard this jerk say any such thing?
No, sir.
Oh, no, you don't understand. You know, they believe in the... yeah, right. They believe in the Constitution. Oh, yes, they do.
Didn't hear a peep out of them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, John, take care of yourself, my friend. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
From Politico, the pretend news site, nonetheless. Allies praise U.S. strike on Syria as Russia, Iran condemn it. Support from U.S. allies swelled for President Trump's missile strikes against a Syrian military base as the first American effort to retaliate against Syrian dictator Bashar Assad sparked new tensions with the Russian leaders. Wait, once again, you mean there's tension between Trump and Putin? How can that be? How can that possibly be? Allies, including the United Kingdom, Australia, and Israel Friday, applauded Trump's decision the night before to order a pair of U.S. Navy destroyers to launch 59 Tomahawk missiles, destroying the Syrian military air base, where aircraft that carried out this week's chemical weapons attack are believed to have been launched. The Pentagon said it was investigating the possibility that Russian forces were complicit in the Syrian chemical weapons attack. They killed more than 70 people, including young children, although there was currently no evidence to suggest Moscow's involvement. See, this is the problem with Politico and the rest of the left and the pseudo-right. No evidence? The Russians know everything that's coming in and out of that airport. What are you talking about? Trump called on all civilized nations to join us in seeking to end the slaughter and bloodshed in Syria. The president, speaking at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida Thursday night, said the Syrian chemical weapon attack resulted in a slow and brutal death for so many, and it did. The move rattled relationships with Russia and Iran, both allies of the Syrian regime. Moscow, in retaliation, said it was cutting off contact with Washington about ongoing strike operations in Syria. Oh, do tell. Oh, that's so harsh. Although U.S. officials said they had spoken to Russian military there as recently as Friday. The Trump administration also said it was preparing sanctions against Syria, although no details were given. U.S. leaders have pointed fingers at Russia for failing to enforce a 2013 deal in which Syria was supposed to hand over its chemical weapons. Now, it's a deal that was sanctioned and embraced and passed by the Security Council. So when all these lawyers are out, I don't see any legal basis for it. No, I don't. Well, how about this UN resolution? Well, what are you, progressive? No, but it's there. It's there. Let's see. Some U.S. allies joined the Russia pile-on. The same Friday Security Council meeting today, UK Ambassador Matthew Rycroft suggested the Kremlin, which helped to broker the deal by which Syria claimed to have surrendered its chemical weapons stockpile, may have learned that, quote, backing a war criminal comes with its own consequence. Humiliation, he said. Russia sits here humiliated by its failure to bring to heel a puppet dictator propped up by Russia itself and Hezbollah and Iran. Oh, I'm liking this. I'm liking, don't tell the Putinites. That's what we'll call them. Don't tell the Putinites in American broadcasting. They got their ass kicked in the Security Council today, the Russians. Can't have that, Mark. No. Can't have that. I'll be right back.
One.
By the way, on Monday, when I should be on this program, it's the first night of Passover, Pesach. So I will not be here. But I have a big treat for you, those of you who will be listening to the radio. We're taking that now famous Thursday night program I did 5 weeks ago. Really, probably one of the greatest radio shows I ever did. Probably one of the greatest radio shows in conservative talk radio. And we're going to play it on Monday. So on Monday, mark it down. You may want to listen to it. We're playing the radio program that got things going on this issue of Obama administration surveillance. I did the best I could based on the news articles that were out there. And I husbanded the information and applied my knowledge to the events that I could see that were taking place. And remember, I moved it from, this Trump, he must be involved with Russia and Trump, which, of course, today's events and yesterday's events really put the lie to that. But I started to focus attention on the Obama administration and the police tactics. And it was based on that program where the media went absolutely nuts, and exposed themselves in ways that they've never exposed themselves before. So you're going to want to listen to Monday's program. We're going to play that in a special edition of the Mark Levin Show on Monday when I'm not here. So I think you'll really enjoy that. I wish this bag under my eye would just go away. Now, if that still sounds like you every morning, you're not alone. Bags and puffiness under the eyes are a problem for millions of American men and women unless you got Genucel, the plant stem cell treatment from Chamonix. Then, ladies and gentlemen, you have no bags and puffiness. Here's Susan from New Jersey. I've been using Genucel for a couple of months. The puffiness around my eyes is gone. Even the crow feet and small lines have disappeared and haven't come back. I love your product. I use it under my eyes, around my cheekbones, and on my eyelids. Now, that's Susan. But she's not alone. There's a whole lot of people who use this, including family members and friends of mine. They love it. My mother loves it. My buddy Teddy loves it. My buddy Danny needs it. I mean, it's just great. And with its instant effects, you'll see results in the first 12 hours or your money back. They guarantee it. One more time. You'll see results in the first 12 hours or your money back. They guarantee it. So call right now. You have nothing to lose. In fact, you'll save big on Genucel's spring clearance event. Order Genucel right now and get a free month supply with your order. That's big. Call 800-SKIN-604, 800-SKIN-604. Call right now, and shipping is also free. Call 800-SKIN-604, 800-SKIN-604. That's 800-SKIN-604. I know you're going to like it, but it's guaranteed. You've got nothing to lose. All right, let us go. Let's see. Diane, Sacramento, California, the great KSFO. Go.
Oh, hi, Mark. Hey, I just got to say, I think this bombing the airport there and taking out all the runways is brilliant. It was such a brilliant move because it sent exactly the right message. Like, you know, we're not going to blow up your canisters. We're not going to start a war like the congressmen think. We're going to blow up your delivery system. And the fact that it was disciplined, it was immediate, it was precise and contained, that in a way is more intimidating than, you know, vast bombing and stuff like that. Now, it's up to...
let me just add, because this is a very important point you make. He brings in his generals. He goes over it with them. He's in Florida. He brings them down to Florida. They come down to Florida. They go over it again. I mean, absolutely managed perfectly. You know, he asked them for the options. They had the options on the table from some time ago when Barack Obama refused to use it. And then he asked a number of questions, apparently, and then he picked one, and he never looked back. Basically, he was having dinner with the dictator of China when we hit Syria. And that's brilliant, too. Go right ahead.
And the thing is that people are going to react, or countries are going to react, or whatever. And Congress cannot be afraid of, you know, escalations here or there. Who knows how they're going to react? The fact is that whatever reaction, it's not going to mean war. It's going to mean this crosses a line, right? And you can't do it. You can't poison children, period. It's beautiful.
Now, with this guy now, he's been told over and over again, there was a negotiation we had with the Russians. He was supposed to turn over all his weapons, his chemical weapons. Actually, they were supposed to inventory them, the Russians, and then they were supposed to be destroyed. That was the deal we cut with the Russians. That was the deal that was cut within the UN Security Council. So those people who say there's no international legal basis for this are wrong. On top of that, what happened was each time that we and other countries would try to enforce this, because he kept using gas against his people, what would happen? Well, Russia, and often with the support of China, would veto it. So they would veto this resolution's enforcement mechanism. And they were doing and threatening the same thing, apparently on Thursday, when Nikki Haley informed the President and the Secretary of State that they were doing that. And Trump said, okay, launch. That's enough already. Thank you for your call, Diane. I appreciate it. Tom, New Hyde Park, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, Mark, it's an honor to talk to you. Before I start, the one thing I wanted to say is Nikki Haley was magnificent when she dressed down Russia in the UN. That was fantastic.
I'm telling you, this lady, I mean, she's come into her own. She is truly a superstar.
Fantastic. I want to say the biggest casualty of this whole situation, I can't for the life of me think why Chuck Schumer would be so stupid to let the Republicans pull a nuclear option. I mean, they were going to confirm the guy one way or another, so he should have just let them do it. And say,
I'll tell you why. Because Schumer is playing long ball. and because Schumer believes that over the course of the next several decades, the Democrats will control the Senate more often than not, and that they will ram through, the most radical justices they possibly can. And he also knows that, unlike his own party, which lines up and never budges, the Republicans have a progressive wing. It's a significant wing within the party, and that they will not allow a solid originalist on the court if it really turns the tide of the court. In other words, if we get down to having a sixth or seventh originalist on the court, that he can count on them to buckle. So I think he's playing long ball on this.
Yeah, I think he probably had 40 interviews lined up to come out and trash the Republicans, but he miscalculated because with this Syrian raid, this is doing the news cycle now, and I'm very, very happy to see that he's not able to play the hand he probably wanted to. So, and I want to say one more thing. The only other talk show host that I enjoyed as much as you is somebody who used to say my influence counted, the great Bob Grant.
Oh, my goodness. I miss Bob. Bob and I were friends.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
As a matter of fact, I'll tell you very quickly, in the whole country, Bob Grant in New York was just spectacular. And he was in Philadelphia for a period of time. And I, as a kid, I would listen to him, whether he was on WOR, WABC, or the FM station in Philadelphia when he had to leave New York and so forth. But when I was a kid, I called his show, and he was nice to me. Not all the time. It was tough to get through, but when he was older, I befriended him, and he was very, very kind to me, and we really enjoyed each other. I miss him very much. All right, Tom, thank you for your call, my friend. Let's continue. Rich, Huntington, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, Mark, I think it's...
Where have you been, Rich? How are you?
It's hard getting on. You're so big now,
I guess, yeah.
Listen, I think Trump has the right. He's got the constitutional authority to go in there. We have all kinds of interest in there. We got people on the field over there, and if you don't nip this thing in the bud, this, with this chemical crap, God knows what could happen. How far this thing could spread, and it's the old cliche. The only language they understand is a threat. They don't understand. If you don't back it up, which Obama, he made the situation worse by being such a...
Here's what I think happened, Rich. The George W. Bush administration went on this democracy project, and they lit a lot of fuses. To me, Iran needed to be taken out. And I supported the effort in Iraq, too. But what happened was to try and impose democracy on societies that have yet to reform. That is, you can't impose. Democracy comes after the civil society, not before. Democracy is a governing system. The civil society is a living system. It's a lifestyle. If you don't have tolerance for other religions or tolerance for other people and so forth and so on, democracy's tough to take hold. And so they went on this kick. They thought it was, Eastern Europe after World War II, I suppose. Western Europe after World War II. But whatever it was, the democracy project was a failure because it was a project that was not based on a reasonable pretext in the first place. And so that lit a lot of fuses. And then Obama further mishandles it by flailing around, making statements he doesn't back up, doing things like that. In the meantime, we have soldiers in Afghanistan, we have soldiers in Iraq, we have soldiers in other places, and people get war weary. They get tired. And so it becomes more difficult when actions really need to be taken effectively and quickly and overwhelmingly to rally the American people. It just becomes more and more difficult. But here's another point that kind of argues against all that. We have an all-volunteer military. A tiny fraction of a percentage of this population goes to war and has the willingness to step up and go to war. Unlike in the past where we had drafts, and every community was affected, and every family knew of another family that was affected. So that sort of thing. Rich, I appreciate it, brother. I got to run. And I got to tell you about LifeLock. Do you have an old cell phone to donate or resell? Be careful. because thieves who purchase old phones apply scanning technology to find personal information they can use to recreate identities and open new accounts. So before getting rid of your old phone, take 5 minutes to remove your SIM or SD card, encrypt your data, wipe it clean with a reset. It's time well spent. Identity theft is America's fastest-growing crime. It happens when thieves use your information to pretend that they're you. They can buy things on your credit, liquidate bank accounts, or get retirement funds. LifeLock scans hundreds of millions of transactions every second. And if they detect your information being used, they send you an alert. If you have a problem, a U.S.-based agent will work to fix it. Now, free credit monitoring only alerts you to changes in credit. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But LifeLock is absolutely the best identity theft protection available anywhere. So go to LifeLock.com, LifeLock.com, or call 1-800-LifeLock. That's 1-800-LifeLock. But make sure you use my promo code Levin. That's Levin. If you do that, you'll get 10% off your LifeLock membership. 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or LifeLock.com, promo code Levin.
Mark Levin. Levin Show.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, well, I think it's kind of cool. Levin TV tonight, the entire episode, is in front of the paywall, which means it is available to everybody. Now, I rarely do this, but we've done it for tonight's program. It's on Syria. It's on the airstrikes. It's on Trump. It's on all of that. But it's quite different from what you've heard on the radio program. You're going to see video you probably haven't seen before. And I piece it together, as really only I do, one piece at a time, over a period of a little less than an hour, maybe 40, 45 minutes or so, give or take. And you're going to see what led up to this. You're going to see through graphics, through video, through maps, the whole thing. So I want to encourage you to check it out. Again, it's absolutely free. Just go to, where do they go? CRTV.com, CRTV.com, and you can see Levin TV for yourself, okay? And we have it posted at Levin TV Facebook, which is the first place to go. Levin TV Facebook, it's right there. I hope you'll check it out. Again, the entire program is there. It's free. You can watch it tonight, all weekend as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just for you, Ray Charles in America. Don't forget Rediscovering Americanism on Amazon right now, and Levin TV right after the program, absolutely free. Check out tonight's show. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. Good night, Pepsi. Good night, Griffey. Good night, Spritey. Good night, Smoking, and good night, Zelda. Get Al-Qaeda. Get the Taliban. Get ISIS. Get all those cockroaches. And God bless each and every one of you.